So welcome Donggeon.
Let me ask you one thing. What did you usually do when you were young? What made your childhood so fun and exciting? Well, for me, it was hanging out with my friends outside, playing soccer, basketball, baseball, tag, and hide and seek, any sports, any physical activities. In fact, sports some kind have been part of my life since I can remember. Sports have helped me to grow as a healthy child, as you can see. I could also learn responsibility and teamwork. Sports even helped me when I first came to Berkeley. I couldn't speak much English, but I could definitely play basketball and soccer. Sports helped me to make friends and enjoy attending Berkeley, even though half the time I had no idea what my teachers and classmates were saying. The thought that there are children and teens with no access to sports shocked me. On a school trip to Slum with the dream of a future charity, many of us high school students saw what life without sports would look like. I heard that the charity had recently been given some money to construct a basketball court and needed some help for their after-school basketball class. And I thought I could maybe help them teaching the kids since I had learned some awesome basketball skills from Coach Mike and Coach Kevin. On March 25th, I went to the slum with this grand plan. I took Yok and Patty as my translators and coaching assistants. We took a taxi right after school with 10 basketballs that I had borrowed from Coach Mike, but I quickly realized how heavy 10 balls were and how hard it is to squeeze them into a taxi. In case you don't know how big 10 balls are, here's the size of the 10 balls, and it's quite heavy. And I also noticed that how hard it was to walk with these heavy balls on a very narrow Klungtoi slum. After 15 minutes of walking, we finally arrived at the basketball court. However, there was no one there. I thought I must have come too early, so I decided to wait. But after 20 minutes of waiting there, we walked to the nursery school to see why nobody showed up and heard that the program supervisor had taken the kids on a field trip. There was nothing to do there was nothing to do but head to the BTS and go home. But I had forgotten that it was Friday evening, right at rush hour traffic. There were thousands of people waiting to get in the BTS, and all the trains were full of people. I couldn't get on it because of this huge bag of basketballs. After about 2 hours of waiting, I decided that I'd have to get a cab even though I could clearly see the huge traffic jam. In the cab, I realized how important communication is, and I swore things would go differently on my next visit to the slums. The second time, I took only 5 basketballs and contacted the coordinator of the after-school program in the slums to make sure I'd have some participants this time. As I walked to the basketball court, this time I could see there were some kids, some running around and others gossiping on a bench. I went to the Mr. Roman, the program's adult supervisor, and told him briefly what my plans for teaching were. He called all the kids to come, but the kids didn't listen. It took another 10 minutes to get their attention. I had my lesson plans ready. We started with warm-ups and stretching, but the kids were clearly not interested. I tried to make groups of three, but my inability to speak Thai or convey what I wanted with the supervisor caused mass confusion. We all ended up either frustrated or bored. This wasn't, however, in a nice, controlled classroom, but underneath a highway in a notorious slum. They were disrespectful and impolite, either playing on their phones or engaging in passionate swearing at each other. Neither the supervisor nor myself could establish any sense of order. I started to fear a bit for my life. Now I know how teachers feel. The 1.5 hours I spent there felt like 5 hours. And my second visit also failed. On the way home, feeling more discouraged than I'd been a long time, I thought how easy it would have been if I could speak Thai or if they could speak English. After 2 failures, a lack of interest of the kids, and a quick talk with Toby, who you guys heard earlier, I decided to move my traveling sports program to the Hope Lutheran site near the Samrong slum. From my experience at Klong Tui, I knew that communication was the biggest problem I had to solve. Fortunately, kids in Samrong had already learned some simple vocabulary and sentences from Toby's English class. Also, this time, I wanted to give them a chance to choose the sports they might love to play but couldn't due to their circumstances. On our first trip there, I simply sat and conversed in English with my group of students, trying to get to know them better. I also asked them what sports they love to play. Their answer was badminton, my favorite sport. It was good for me because I love to play badminton, and badminton rackets are way lighter than these basketballs. Miss Kelly and I started the second lesson off teaching some simple vocabulary like birdie, racket, net, and court that would help them to understand what I was saying better. The students all got into the lesson, and I felt an emotion I hadn't felt in a while, relief. I could see the smiles of happiness on their faces. My project did not end up producing basketball stars that I thought it would. In fact, I think I learned more than any of my students. I learned the importance of communication, how to adapt myself to new surroundings, and how to engage my audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Donggeon.